Morning, all. Welcome back to the session. So now we have session 2 by Dr. Basavaprabhu Shiparamati and on the topic soft computing in MEMS. Right? Yeah. And the brief introduction regarding the resource person will be given by Nayana. Over to you, Nayana.
A very good morning to all present here. Nainaji, on behalf of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Basaveshwara Engineering College, Pagalkot. Dr. Sri Paramatti has completed his BE in Electronics and Communication Engineering from PDI College of Engineering, Gulbarga, and MTech from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay in the year 1999. And he has completed PhD in the year 2010 on the thesis Modeling, Simulation and Optimization of MEMS-based Microcantilever, and he has more than 30 years of teaching experience and industrial experience. He has published 30 technical papers in national and international journals and 80 technical papers in national and international conference in the countries like Japan, Singapore, France, USA, and Australia. His area of interest is MEMS and embedded system. He has conducted many workshops, short-term courses, and many seminars. Apart from this, he has published various books in English as well as Kannada, such as Medical Equipment and Their Application, Agatha Shushti, a book based on Stephen Hawking's The Grand Design. Some of his research activities are working as coordinator for National MEMS Design in Electronics and Communication Engineering, Basaveshwara Engineering College, National MEMS Design Center, and also established low-cost polymer fabrication lab under AICTE. We are honored to have you here, sir. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, thank you. Oh. My screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be talking on soft computing. However, I feel I should introduce some MEMS because I don't know what sir has introduced, but I have my own way of introducing. I just quickly introduce some to the field of MEMS in few slides. Then later on we'll go for soft computing. Then I'll be dealing with what are MEMS and a few applications. Quickly, I'll cover a few applications because the sir might have covered some applications already. Multiple energy domain modeling, because basically MEMS modeling requires multiple energy domains. Then soft computing techniques, design optimization, distributed control, distributed processing, distributed intelligence. All these things I am not going to cover in detail, but I'll just give a brief possibility in all these things for MEMS. Okay, I think there may be some repetition in the slides. I don't know. What are MEMS? Basically, integrated micro devices or systems. They combine electrical and mechanical components. They are fabricated using IC compatible batch processing techniques. They range in size from micrometers to millimeters. They can sense, control, actuate on micro scale and can function individually or in arrays to generate effects on the macro scale. And obviously, such small things really fascinate us because I think some of us might have seen the films like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and all. So remember, electronics has been uh, the very basic drive for electronics is miniaturization. because we know the first vacuum tube sometime introduced in 1903, and the size was thumb like structure, and then suddenly in 1948 size is reduced to some grain size, like a grain, then with a 3-terminal transistor. Now after 60s we have integrated circuits. Okay, so in integrated circuits we have almost more than a billion transistors or resistors and capacitors together are there. Okay, so under such scenario, miniaturization has been the driving force of electronics, and this miniaturization is entering in mechanical field also, and that is MEMS. And here it all started with the Richard Feynman's vision. So he gave a talk in 1959 in Stanford University. The title of the talk was "There is a plenty of room at the bottom." So this triggered the scientists all over the world to start, or it opened up way for micro technology as well as nanotechnology. So on his talk on 1559, he gave to make an electric motor and also the characters, so that one can write 125,000th time the size of the character. Okay, so that complete Encyclopedia Britannica can be fitted in small integrated circuit. So his challenge opened up new ways for both the micro and nano technology. And here, this microelectronics and nature. So this is man less than around 2 meters maximum, 1.5 to 2 meters, and a PCB, grain of sand, ant around 5 millimeter, human hair dimension less than 100 micrometers, anti bacteria, DNA, okay, and your atoms in angstroms. Okay, so this thing can be compared with this. Okay, diced chip and MEMS device, okay, nanotube, carbon nanotube, and nano manipulation. With the nano manipulation, people have put atoms like this. Anyway, I'll show that slide again. Similarly, this is also another image which tells you the difference between mainly MEMS and NEMS. This is MEMS, micro electromechanical, few millimeters to 0.1 micrometer. And NEMS technology is less than any one of the feature size is less than 100 nanometer. Then as a NEMS structure as a whole may be bigger, but if any one of the feature, suppose if you consider a simple beam or cantilever, then if the thickness is less than 100 nanometer, then we can call that only thickness. Length may be bigger. Then we can call that structure as a nano electromechanical system. So these two figures will give fairly good idea about what is the difference between human MEMS and NEMS. Less than 100 nanometer, it is nano electromechanical system. MEMS means any one of the feature is in microns or submicrons. Then you can call it as MEMS, and it may go up to few centimeters also. Okay. So here, how many transistors, resistors, and capacitors are there in a latest memory chip? Latest, it is more than 100 million, 1 billion, more than a billion, more than population of India, 1.3. Now it is nearing 5 billion also. So here, with the MEMS technology, what people have done, I just want to share with you some interesting figures are there. This is world's smallest car sitting on a coin, and the car is 4.8 mm long and runs on an electric motor, which is 0.67 millimeter. So this is once again world's smallest guitar. So it is made up of 10 micrometer long silicon guitar. Okay, same size as a single cell, because typical size of a human cell is around 10 micrometers. So with 6 strings each 50 nanometer wide, 100 atoms wide. And this has been done in Cornell University. And this is once again IBM scientists working in nanotechnology. They have literally placed 35 xenon atoms. That is, with the help of a micro manipulator, they have placed this, and it is the image of the same. And similarly, when we say it is a micro electromechanical system, a question comes whether it is an integrated circuit or a machine. Okay, now we can call it as it is a machine inside a IC, because this you can see this is a proof mass, and it is supported by 1, 2, 3, 4 cantilevers, and this proof mass moves. Okay, suppose if it is part of a accelerometer IC, then it moves up or down like that. However, it is used. It is whether it is used for a sudden acceleration or sudden deceleration, whatever it is. So that movable part is also miniaturized and kept inside integrated circuits, and associated with that there is a electronic circuitry, and both together are kept inside a IC. That's why whether it is an integrated circuit or machine, we can say it is a machine inside an integrated circuit, you can call. So this is the first movable structure that was created in a transistor sometime in 1967 or so. So this was done between source and drain. A movable part here. This is the cantilever. So this was the movable part, which when it came near this surface, then it facilitated, because it is charged, it facilitated the flow of majority carriers from source to drain like that. Okay, so thus it was a resonant. It was a resonant gate transistor. So movable part. This is the first movable part in 1967. Okay, inside a integrated circuit, and basic operations of a MOS transistor. Okay, so then what is this micro, nano, what it is? Okay, so we know the difference. This is source and drain in between oxide layer, and here this length, this gap between source and drain, we used to call it is in micrometer technology. If this length is between 8 to 10 micrometer, then we call it as 8 micron, 10 micron micrometer technology. Or then came 1 to 1.4 micron technology. Now we are in we are in few 3 to 5 nanometer technology, like that. Okay, these are some stages. Now we may even go down and ultimately find a single electron transistor, with which we just add one electron, it becomes on, transistor becomes on. Remove one electron, transistor may become off, like that. Okay, single electron transistor also have been achieved. So this gap, if it is in microns, then the transistor itself, you can call it as a MEMS structure. Similarly, of course, there are no moving parts, but this is how the terminology has been defined. The smallest feature in a movable part or in a structure. Okay, if it is in micron, or if it is less than 100 nanometers, then this itself can be called as a nano transistor. Micro transistor, everybody we know. Okay, it is being used since many years, 30-40 years. But if we say a nano transistor, then this gap, that is any one of the feature, should be, if it is less than 100 nanometer, then you can call it as nano. It is a nano structure. Okay, so how it looks, because we are talking about macro, micro, nano, like that. Okay, so then if you open a bonnet of a car, okay, you see some machinery like this. Okay, so these are macro structures. But if you cut open an integrated circuit and open that silicon wafer part and see it under microscope, okay, so you can see the metal interconnects. Okay, so these can be called as MEMS structures, 0.1 millimeter to say 0.1 micrometer to 0.1 millimeter. Okay, so these metal interconnects in integrated circuits can be seen under microscope. So this is a microstructure. So this is a macrostructure, this is a microstructure, but this is a nanostructure, wherein you can see atoms and molecules. So these are atoms formed in a, say, crystalline structure or whatever, and some molecules. Okay, so this you can visualize. If you can visualize, this is a nanostructure, nanosystem, microsystem, macro system. Okay. So that gives you a fairly good idea about how everything, because we are living in macro world. We are living in macro world. Of course, in nature also we have microstructures. Our human hair can be called as a microstructure. See, we are not talking about length of the hair. It may be small or lengthy, few feet, 2-3 feet, or it may be just 1 or 2 inches. Okay, so but if the once the diameter of the hair is say 75 microns or less than 100 microns, or more 50 to 100 microns, then human hair also can be considered as a MEMS structure. That, but it is made by nature. But we are also making these things man-made microstructures or MEMS. If at all there is a moving part in them. So similarly, if you consider a DNA structure, it can be considered as nano electromechanical systems. So because the cell, typical cell, as I said, around 10 microns, nucleus 2 to 3 micron. Okay, so then in that so many nuclear particles are there. So their DNA structure is there. Those things can be considered as natural nano electromechanical systems. So here, why one should go for MEMS? So miniaturization with no loss of functionality. Okay, so without affecting its functionality, if you can make MEMS, then fantastic, because we can use less material, less power. Okay, a small space it occupies. So many advantages are there for MEMS. That's why miniaturization, but they should not. This miniaturization should not affect the functionality of the system for which it is made. If somebody says Tata's nano car, but it doesn't mean that its size is nano. Okay, the purpose of car is to transport people. Okay, if I cannot enter into the car and size of the car is made so small, then it is of no use. Its functionality is affected. It cannot carry people. Okay, then that miniaturization is of no use. Okay, so miniaturization with no loss of functionality, which one can do. Okay, so and the integration to form a monolithic system, improved reproducibility. Okay, so here one important thing is this batch fabrication. Batch fabrication means at a time you are imprinting say 50, 100, 200, 500 integrated circuits on a 8-inch or 12-inch or 15-inch wafer. Okay, depending upon the circuit complexity. Okay, so here all the 50 or 200 ICs are made simultaneously in a batch. Okay, so this is the reason why the cost of electronics is coming down day by day, and but in turn the functionality is increasing like anything. So these things is the basic thing about now. But remember, in integrated circuit, nothing is moving. Okay, no movable parts. But in MEMS there are movable, and obviously suppose the simplest structure is a cantilever. It makes up and down. Okay, so movement, whenever there is movement, there is wear and tear. Okay, so if there is wear and tear, you should choose a material whose Young's modulus is very high. Okay, so here most important thing is your silicon is both just a minute. Am I audible? Hello, please anybody respond. Hello.
You're audible, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay. So here improved reproducibility, it is because of batch fabrication. And here as I said, Young's modulus, because if there is moving part, wear and tear takes place. And if you use some other material, then after some usage, suppose if it is a switch, so switch has to operate millions of times in its lifetime. Okay, so if you use some ordinary material, then it may not work. After a few days, it will not do it. It may break. But if you use silicon's Young's modulus is almost that of steel. For example, it varies, of course, depending upon whether it is amorphous or if it is crystalline. Say 140 gigahertz to 140 gigapascal to 190 gigapascals. whereas the Young's modulus of steel is say around 210 gigapascals. Okay, so that if you consider crystalline, it is almost near to steel, because we all make our parts wherein wear and tear, your engine, car engine or car body, all these things are made up of steel. Okay, so it is almost steel. Then we can make hinges or any movable parts and make the miniaturized world realizable. Okay, so that is how the material property of silicon is. So that's why in 1982 there was a paper, seminal paper, wherein silicon as a miniaturized material, so something like that. I'll just share it with you later. Okay, so here these are other advantages like low power, fast actuation. Fast actuation techniques is also very important. Okay, and improved selectivity and sensitivity. Okay, this is also by the virtue of miniaturization, and selectivity also is because of miniaturization and its specific properties. Okay, so and in some cases MEMS may be the only solution, because we are thinking of something. Suppose I want to go into a blood vessel and do some operation, then I have to go for MEMS only. So that's why in some cases MEMS may be the only solution. Okay, so these are general advantages: reduced size, high precision, improved performance, minimal use of resources, batch fabrication. Because of batch fabrication, the cost reduces, and new capabilities. Okay, so this new capability is very important. If you go for some multi-physics domain, we can explore many possibilities in micro domain. Okay, so new capabilities. Once again, it depends upon the imagination of the designer. I'll just quickly go through some of the popular applications. Not only the pressure sensors, of course, the pressure sensors and inkjet printer nozzle were the first MEMS structures. Then came sometime in 90s came the airbag trigger system. This I think everybody know about it. At the time of sudden deceleration, you can a airbag opens up, thus protects the driver. Okay, so this is the IC. Okay, so in this IC you can see the both movable parts and the electronic circuitry in the same. Okay, so the accelerometer airbag 1995. Okay, all the dimensions. ADXL series ICs where ADXL 202. Okay, in 202 came in, and they are being widely used in cars and other automobiles. Okay, so similarly, tire pressures for monitoring the tire pressure sensors are there. Similarly, in robotic arms for a micro gripper. Okay, this is a micro gripper. See, along with every MEMS figure, a scale is given. Suppose, for example, this much distance is 100 micrometers. Okay, so now you can see this is around. It can open for up to 100 micrometer and close. That means up to 100 micrometer, any objects can be picked by this gripper. It can be used in pick and place robo arm. So similarly, I think this is shown. This is one possibility wherein angioplasty and stent procedure. So this gives you a fairly good idea about. See, this is cholesterol deposition, and this is balloon angioplasty. Okay, sometimes it retains back, but sometimes it collapses. Okay, so if it collapses back, then it disallows. Okay, it will not allow the flow of blood here. So at that time, you can think of this. People, this is the cholesterol, and you can add the angioplast balloon. They inflate the balloon first, then they insert this stent. Okay, so the balloon angioplasty and stent procedure has been shown here. So in order to go into these things, because here most important thing is this artery. Okay, the artery which supplies blood to heart muscles itself. Okay, so that is coronary artery. Okay, so in the human body, here and there some blocks will be there, here and there, many places, but the block which supplies blood, the block in the coronary artery which supplies blood to the heart muscles themselves, Okay, because that is crucial. Heart should beat throughout our life without any rest. Okay, so under such conditions, the deposition or cholesterol deposition in the coronary artery is dangerous, fatal. Okay, so only for coronary artery treatment this is used. So for in order to do something such things like one can use the MEMS structures only. Even one can think of sending robots and cut away this cholesterol deposition. Cut small micro or nano robots one can send. But right now we can cut them, but we cannot just control them to whatever the requirement because they may cut the blood vessel itself. Okay, which is still more dangerous. Okay, so I'm just telling in a lighter sense. Okay, so here I think instead of why most of the time we feel we don't like to take injections, it is because the needle of the injection syringe is around 1 millimeter or so. Okay, 1 to 2 millimeter depending upon how much is being injected. Okay, so here instead of that, if you have an array of micro needles, then they will not cut many nerve endings and nerves and nerve endings. Okay, so blood vessels there, so one can maybe enjoy lighter sense. I'm telling you, one can enjoy injections. Okay, so that way this is micro needle array. So similarly, biochemical sensors, bio and chemo sensors, electronic tongue, electronic nose, such things are there. So most of them, they are based on micro cantilever only. So smart pill also one can think. Okay, so it is basically a biosensor only, and of course it traverses, it enters the body, and this is a drug delivery system, and this is the endoscopic MEMS pill. Okay, as it enters the body and traverses over the digestive system, it gives the complete picture of the digestive system. Okay, so these are the some applications, and this is one more interesting thing about electrostatic motors. So in real world, we do not have electrostatic motors in macro world. I mean, okay, because in macro world, if you want to make a motor, fan size motor, then we need to apply thousands of volts, which is not a practical thing because it is very dangerous. Okay, but in micro domain, you can go for low voltages. Okay, so it is once again because of the small dimensions. See this image. This is the rotor part and this is the stator part. This rotor part is going inside the stator, and see the dimensions. This much is 1 micrometer. This is less than a 1 micrometer. No, okay. So maybe around 0.3 micrometer gap is there all over this, and in that your rotor part is moving inside. And same thing, it is also electrostatic motor. The other one here. So these things, that's why in macro domain we have electromagnetic motors. That is our fan or electric pump, water pump, and all those will run on the principle of magnetic forces. Okay, but electrostatic not feasible. Thousands of volts are required. But in micro domain, in order to pump microliters or nanoliters of some fluid, one can think of using them, and for them one can go for such electrostatically driven structures, okay, which can act as a motor, micro motor. Similarly, there is a resonator. See here, this is very important thing. Frequency F is equal to, whenever a resonating structure is there, the governing equation is like this: 1/2 pi under root K by M. Where K is the stiffness and M is the mass. So as mass reduces drastically, then what happens is frequency goes up. Okay, see, mass is a volume force. Okay, mass is a volume force. Okay, so suppose there is one structure whose side is 100 micron. Okay, 100 micron cube, if you can imagine. No? So one side is 100 into 10 to the power of minus 6. So if you consider the area, then it is 100 into 100 into 10 to the power of minus 6 into 10 to the power of minus 6. Okay, so it becomes 10,000 into 10 to the power of minus 12. So now you can imagine, compared to volume, the surface is decreased drastically. Okay, similarly, if you consider the volume, then it is 100 into 100 into 100 into 10 to the power of minus 18. So still the power is reduced by almost 10 to the power of minus 12 times. So this gives you an idea about scaling. These are called scaling laws. Okay, as you scale down, what happens is, compared to surface, volume forces becomes negligible, because the volume becomes negligible. Whatever the coefficient is there, no, 100 into 100 into 100 into 10 to the power of minus 18. Okay, so this only we are taking 4 zeros are added, but minus 12 zeros are reduced. Okay, like that. So as we reduce, no, because electronics and communication engineers, they are all frequency hungry people. They want higher and higher frequencies for their structures, because we were happy with say 2 to 3 megahertz in 19 before the invention of television. Okay, all radio channels all over the world, they were in the range of 450 kilohertz to 2 to 3 megahertz. So after that, TV came in. After that, FM came in, 98 to 108 megahertz. Now even TV in the beyond that region is also there. So like that, now we are using mobiles and we are operating with frequencies 900 to 1800 megahertz. Okay, so under such scenario, we are after, and we want still more band for our next generation communications. Okay, so under such scenario, one need to have a oscillator. Okay. So obviously there is a scope from MEMS. Okay, there is a solution from MEMS area. Okay, as we miniaturize things, resonance frequency increases, and that can be used as a trigger to our structures. Okay, trigger to our to generate a local oscillator frequency. Okay, so these are some things here. A comb finger assembly, how it works. Okay, so this is a transverse. See, if you consider a capacitor, no, two parallel plate capacitors, of course there is some area. Suppose imagine this is one plate and this is another plate. Okay, so two parallel plates, but instead if you go for comb finger assembly, then what happens is suddenly the capacitance increases drastically. If you say 150 or 200 comb fingers, then 200 comb fingers, their capacitance becomes multiplied by 200 times. Okay, so this in turn increases the sensitivity as well as the power handling capacity of a electrostatically driven actuator. As a sensor also there is advantage. As a actuator also there is an advantage. You know the difference between sensor and actuator. Okay, so here sensor is one which converts the real life parameter into electrical parameter, and then that information is processed in a electronic processor. Then the after processing, the results, whatever the results are there, those are used to drive some action, some physical action. Suppose right now, I think I can give one simple example. Suppose the one mosquito comes near me, my eyes recognizes that, and the moment it comes near to me, I want to drive it away. I'll move my hand. Okay, so then what happens here in this? Identifying a mosquito which is approaching me is done by my eyes and the brain. Identify and tell it is approaching. Drive it away, it tells. Then my hand moves. Motor neurons, the brain sends signal to motor neurons of the brain in the brain, and in turn it drives away it actuates the muscles, and my hand moves and the mosquito goes away. So in this action, okay, if you think of a small electrostatically driven structure, okay, then there if you increase the number of comb fingers, okay, then your actuating force also will enhance half CV square. C is again there in the numerator. Okay, as C increases, as comb fingers increases, C increases. As C increases, the power handling capacity or power required to drive, that will increase. Okay, or power, if it is sensor also, its sensitivity increases. That way one can interpret it. Okay, so similarly in mobiles we have MEMS based resonator, inductors, capacitors, switch. So these are once again important things. Then coming to micro cantilever. Okay, so if you consider the simplest structure in of MEMS is a cantilever. Okay, so cantilever is a structure which cantilever is basically a beam which is connected at one which is fixed at one end and free at another end. Okay, so here suppose if I stretch my arm like this, then the one part of my arm is fixed to my body and other part is free. So this free hand can act both as a sensor and actuator. Okay, so likewise a micro cantilever can act as a sensor as well as actuator. Okay, so what all it can sense? It senses some physical quantities, it senses some chemical quantities, it senses some biomedical quantities. Okay, it senses some environmental quantities. And okay, so that way more than hundreds of different sensors have been made with micro cantilever alone. So these are some of the things why we should go for micro cantilever. Okay, as I said, it is the simplest MEMS device. Okay, it offers improved dynamic response. Okay, offers high precision, offers increased reliability. Okay, so because of all these advantages, okay, so one can go for MEMS based cantilever or a micro cantilever. Okay, so not only a single micro cantilever, but also a array of cantilever can use to sense multiple elements simultaneously. Okay, so here normally we go for how it is sensed. Okay, either broadly, either bending or change in resonance frequency of the cantilever, micro cantilever, when subjected to some input stimulus are sensed, and thus it acts as both sensor and resonator and actuator. Okay, when it is used in a switch, okay, so then it acts as a actuator. When it is used in as a sensor, its bending or its change in resonance frequency after application of some stimulus is measured, and in turn the which is obviously proportional to the input stimulus, and it is measured. So that way it is very useful structure. I said no, more than hundreds of sensors have been made with micro cantilever alone. Obviously, these are the domains: physical, chemical. Physical, you can think of weight, mass sensor, pressure sensor, force sensor, okay, like that. Chemical, also you can think of identification of some chemicals. Biomedical, also identification. Environment, also so many gases, so many biological parameters can be sensed with this. That's why more than 100 micro cantilever based sensors are there in the market. Here, mass, surface, stress, etc. Biomolecular interaction, stress, okay, nuclear radiation, external. Okay, these are some of the parameters you can think of. So, bending of micro cantilever is basically surface stress, thermal action, electrostatic field, external. Okay, any one of these parameters can be easily identified with the micro cantilever alone. So this is once again when a micro cantilever is used as a switch. So in this length, width, thickness of micro cantilever are 60 micron length, 15 micron wide, 2 micron thick micro cantilever. So voltage used is 30 volts. Okay. So less insertion loss, less consumption. Okay, so good linearity. These are some of the advantages. As here dimensions, you can see this figure, this mark here. This much distance is 1 micron. Okay, now you can think. Okay, sorry, 10 microns. Okay, so here thickness obviously 2 micron, 15 micron is the width, and 60 micron you can see approximately it becomes 60. Six times this much distance. Okay, So this switch, ideally this switch, ultimately in a computer processor, a transistor is used for only for on and off, because your whole computer processes zeros and ones, stream of zeros and ones are, whether it is audio, video, whatever data. Okay, it is just ultimately represented in terms of zeros and ones. So that thing, okay. So ideally, then you can replace the CPU with array of such small micro cantilevers which are used in as a switch here. Okay. So, but of course, people are not after that because there are some other problems. But one can think purely mechanical CPU. Okay. Okay. So even that can be considered. Okay. So here, how actually this happens? Okay. In case of biosensor, okay, or chemical sensors, a selective coating is pasted here, and that selective coating only interacts with a selective material. Okay, just like ligand receptor, okay, antigen antibody. Okay, so pairs antigen antibody ligand receptors. Okay, so that if it only interacts with only this material, then obviously only if that material comes, then only interaction takes place. Okay, if interaction takes place, then by the virtue of the weight of these molecules, or by the virtue of change in surface property of this layer, okay, deflection takes place. Okay, so of course here they consider, compared to weight, the effect because of this surface activity, okay, that is more dominant, and that bends. Okay, so that causes the change in the length, elongation. This is fixed and it elongates. When this elongates, obviously it bends down. If this contracts, it bends upwards. Okay, or sometimes if you trigger it, if you stimulate it, okay, so after this interaction, it starts vibrating. Okay, means after giving before this stimulus, okay, you just check the resonance frequency of this cantilever, and after stimulus you check the resonance frequency of this structure, then the difference obviously gives the change in resonance frequency, and here also change in deflection. Okay, so change in resonance frequency or change in deflection, or change, of course, measurement of the deflection, okay, change in position, okay, so can be used to measure the whatever the parameter is. Okay, so this is once again, these are some examples. Okay, so this is again one more thing. Okay, so see, this gives a mass sensitivity as good as 10 to the power of minus 21 kg possible. Okay, so once again here, this is this dotted line, no, from here to here, this much distance is 1.2 micrometer. So you can imagine how much small it is, cantilever. Okay, so one more thing is, as a micro battery, one can use this. Okay, so here this is radioactive source at the bottom, and this is the copper layer, and this radioactive source generates radioactive particles, some negatively charged particles, and when it loses negatively charged particles, this becomes positive and this becomes negative, attracts. Okay, so here when it attracts, once again discharge takes place, then it goes back like this, it sets into a vibration. Okay, when this is set into vibration, the piezoelectric plate that is fixed here is subjected to vibration, and across this piezoelectric plate one can tap the DC power. So thus it acts as a micro battery. But here you may ask one question: radioactivity is dangerous. Okay, but there are some low-end radioactive sources. If they are used here, then obviously it can work, so that you need not charge. Otherwise, what happens? No, say mobile batteries. Okay, you need to charge every few hours, every day at least. Okay, and after 2 years of its usage, once again its holding capacity comes down, and you need to charge it very often. Okay, so in such cases, then if you can use a micro battery made up of, say, radioactive source, which is of obviously low end and which will not penetrate more than 2 to 3 millimeter of say leather. Okay, a leather casing of for the mobile. Okay, which is of 2 to 3, then it will not harm the human body also. Okay, low end radioactive. It's not uranium. Okay, so such things are feasible. Actually, this is one image. Of course, this is the image. Of course, references in the references I will put this here. This is a radioactive source. High energy electrons, they go and hit. Okay, when they hit, this becomes, it loses electrons, it becomes positive, it gains electrons positive, then it comes back. Okay, so when it comes back, we can see because of this bending is across this piezoelectric material, you can see some voltage. Okay, so like this, it sets into vibration here. It is setting into vibration because it comes back once again, attracts once again. Okay, so this process is continuous. Actually, when this was made, no, when this concept was conceived and somebody made this, and they made a cantilever like this, and it was set into vibration for say 1 week or so. It continued to vibrating. Then manually they stop this. Okay, there's the story history behind it. Okay, so such things is feasible and they have made this. Okay, and of course it is not yet become as a product. Okay, not yet become. Okay, so here when you come think of a sensor network. Okay, so this is a, suppose this is a sensor network and you are deploying wireless to collect the data in the say forest. Okay, okay, and for environmental monitoring and all. Okay, so such and this is through a wireless structure. Then you have to deploy these sensors. Okay, so there are some challenges like size, cost, power requirement. Okay, so all these things, and power is very crucial here. Okay, in a wireless sensor network. Okay, so in such things people obviously go for a small size structure. Okay, small miniaturization. Okay, is required here also obviously. Okay, a small solar cell array. Okay, see the size. It's a coin. Okay, it's a coin, $1. Okay, so here other parts. Okay, so such sensor nodes are deployed, and these things in turn collect the information and send the data to a centralized processor, and the data about the forest or in a big area can be monitored continuously. Okay, so such things are possible only because of this, once again, miniaturization. And I'll not cover this making of MEMS because Sir has already covered, I think. Okay, so anyway, I'll just quickly tell what are the processes. Okay, crystal growth. Okay, because though silicon is available abundantly in the nature, it is in the form of silicates. You have to extract pure silicon out of it, and you have to make the crystalline silicon. Okay, because we need crystalline silicon for making wafers, and making wafers, and obviously on wafers we using planar technology we grow our electronic components. Nowadays, because of MEMS, we make our movable parts also. Okay, so here crystal is grown and seed crystal is used, and on that wafering is done, and on wafer we repeatedly do this film formation, lithography, etching. Okay, with different masks every time. Okay, we make the film, then we carry out lithography using one mask set, then we remove unwanted material, then go back and one more litho mask we use, once again we do etching, then once again we go back, and sometimes we may have to carry out the impurity doping. Okay, all this. Okay, because for typically around 20, for making MEMS, typically around 20 masks are required maximum. And whereas if you are making a integrated circuit, you need to use around 200 masks because it is a very complex process. So many devices, their interconnects. Okay, so if you are thinking a integrated circuit, then obviously maximum around 200 masks are required. Whereas in case of MEMS, it is maximum, may think of around 20 masks. Okay, with 20 masks, this process is repeated. In case of IC, with 200 masks, this process is repeated. Okay, then when you come out of this loop, you are having a silicon wafer, maybe 2 inch in case of R&D, 2 inch or 4 inch in case of R&D, or a 12 inch or 15 inch in case of a industry. Okay, so there the thickness is a little bit more, 750 microns or 1000 microns. Okay, if you are handling 15-inch wafers. Okay, but here in case of R&D, wherein we take some 2-inch wafer and make our some 20-40 devices. Okay, MEMS devices. Okay, then of these MEMS components, and then we have to cut them out, and we have to carry out the testing. Okay, so broadly surface, bulk, and Liga processes are there, and this is the typical this is the mask. Okay, so on the mask, okay, so here they focus. Okay, this is what miniaturization is. Okay, so and each one of these things is a integrated circuit. Then depending upon positive photoresist or negative photoresist, some part is retained, some part is removed. Okay, ultimately we end up with a structure like this. Okay, structure like this. Okay, so I'll not go in detail because sir has already covered. This is a structure which is done using surface micromachining by surface micromachining method. Okay, so this is the structure which is done using bulk micromachining technique. Okay, in surface, what we do is we just keep on adding layers, 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer. Okay, say 20 layers, and after every layer we we make the pattern using photolithography, and on that we retain some material or structure which is required, and remove unwanted structure. That's all. Okay, so like this, layer by layer, it is grown. Okay, and there is ideally no limitation for this. Okay, but if you go for bulk micromachining, it is like making a sculpture. Okay, a big stone is brought, and so initially it is whatever that is not required, it is cut. Okay, then make a face, make a shoulder, okay, collar, like that. Then you go the inner details, even you can make hairs of the human body. Okay, and on his head. Okay, then make a nose, lips, and finally say even you can make a goggle. Okay, for him. Okay, such sculptures you have seen. Okay, so here the thing is it is removing unwanted material from a bulk. Okay, so these are the major MEMS fabrication techniques for making a movable parts. Okay, so if you look, this figure gives a very good idea about the difference between bulk and surface. Okay, so suppose I want to make a cantilever. Okay, you cut here and you remove this part. Suppose think that this is a silicon wafer of 500 micron thick. Okay, so on that, if you grow a silicon amorphous silicon of a few microns, okay, then you cut open something, and below that you remove the whatever the material that is the silicon is there here and this side and all. Okay, so thus you get a bulk micromachined silicon cantilever. Okay, so here on the substrate you put on some layer, and in that layer you just make a hole using photolithography. Then you put say amorphous silicon. Then on that you remove unwanted thing. Then this portion you remove. You'll end up with this structure. Okay, so this is a surface micromachined cantilever. This is a bulk micromachined cantilever. Okay, so I think this figure will clearly give the idea about bulk versus surface. Okay, and this Liga process, one more process, as I said, the Liga process is like injection molding. Okay, they take plastic and put it in a machine and do the injection molding. PET bottles, how they are made. Okay, so that way one can do the molding of these microstructures using the last process. Okay, this Liga process. Okay, so quickly I have covered this because anyway it may be repetition for you, but here I'll go and tell you. Here I'd like to share one interesting image wherein nanotechnology and microtechnology are clubbed. Okay, so this is one structure wherein uh, nanotechnology meets microtechnology. Okay, so this is a cantilever like structure. Okay, actually it's not, it is supported at the bottom, it is not cantilever. You can think just as a beam which is on a surface. Okay, this is also one more, or you can think of electrode. Okay, then between these two, this and this, you can see some small thread like structure. So this is a carbon nanotube, and this is also a carbon nanotube. Okay, so like this. Okay, see here, source electrode and drain electrode, and they are joined with a nano carbon nanotube. Okay, so this gives a fairly good idea between nano and micro technology, because people usually ask when nanotechnology has come, what is the use of micro technology? And NEMS are there, why NEMS are required? Okay, so once again, you can tell, in order to hold these microstructures, or in order to connect these nanostructures, one need microstructures. Okay, so that is the only solution. But in many cases, in nano domain, whatever the sensing takes place may not be sufficient. At that time, you have to go for there is very little difference. Okay, so you cannot clearly tell, though by definition we tell something which is less than 100 nanometer, that is nano structure or nano electromechanical system. If it is more than 100 nanometers, then it is obviously microstructure, MEMS structure. Okay, so like that, there is no clear-cut difference at this level. Okay, that's what we can see. That's why this figure, nano technology meets micro technology. Okay. So this is again one interesting example wherein a gold dot about 50 nanometers in diameter, this one, okay, fused to the end of a cantilevered oscillator, okay, about four micrometer long. Okay, so this from here to here, it is 4 micrometers. Okay, accordingly you can think if its width or thicknesses. Okay, those are not shown here, but thing is, when this is after putting the gold, then how its resonance frequency changes. Okay, it can be understood by the next figure. But here, not this gold dot is kept, but a single cell at the end of the cantilever is kept. Yeah. Okay, single cell at the end of the cantilever, at the tip, near the tip of the cantilever is kept, and before and after, the resonance frequency is measured. Okay, same thing can be applied to this say gold dot also. Okay, so here resonance frequency shift due to single cell, you can see. Okay, so this is this resonance frequency in megahertz. It is say 1 point okay, here maybe 1.07. Okay, okay, and after putting the single cell, its frequency has come down. Okay, maybe 1.0. It is one, no? Okay, I think this figure itself is clear. Okay, so this red one after shifting. So this change in resonance frequency, if you can calculate in the governing equation, no, 1 upon 2 pi f is equal to 1 upon 2 pi under root k by m. Okay, that m is effective mass. Okay, so now if you observe that change in resonance frequency, that effective mass can be calculated. That means change in this the mass of this single cell can be calculated by with this figure, with this graph. Okay, so where else this cantilever is used? Okay, so this cantilever, uh, at the tip of this cantilever, at the tip of this other side of the cantilever, there is a you can see this structure. Okay, so this structure itself acts as a AFM tip. Okay, you must be aware of AFM. Okay, atomic force microscope. See, man invented optical microscopes. Then we found the limitation. We went for electron microscope, like that. Okay. Now optical microscopes are there. Okay. So, atomic force microscopes are there. Okay, and other versions are also there. MEMS based. See here, you can see once again the scale here. So this much distance is 10 micrometer. Okay. So this one, when it traverses, okay, this cantilever traverses over a sample. See, sample surface is uneven like this. Okay, but this cantilever with its tip, it is moving, traverses over the sample surface. Then as it traverses, a source, a laser source falls on this tip, and its reflected beam, okay, reflected beam is used in a detector. Okay, position sensitive detector. Okay, so as it moves, as per these undulations, the reflected laser beam falls here or here. Then you can easily measure, that means proportional to this surface, you can have a image, and from that you can tell what is the surface topography. Okay, so this one can be used. See there, literally, you can measure the, imagine it that the lower surface or sample surface is made up of so many atoms like this. Okay, and as the cantilever with the tip, atomic AFM tip. This is AFM tip. This is the cantilever. Okay, this is the laser beam. Okay, falling and reflecting. At the one side there is a source, another side there is a sensor. Okay, so position sensitive sensor detector. Okay, so with this you can have some AFM images like this. Okay, so here here, remember here, this is very interesting figure. Conventional AFM image of some structure. Okay, so at the tip of this, structure, they have put a zero point 0.4 micrometer long carbon nanotube. Okay, some thread like structure at the tip of the cantilever. AFM tip is attached with a zero point 0.4 micrometer long. Remember, this is long CNT, carbon nanotube. Okay, then because of that movable thread like structure which is fitted here at the tip, okay, you can have altogether different image which gives or reveals more information about, see here, 450 by 450 nanometer, okay, size, 600 by 600 nanometer size, this one size. Okay, such images can be recreated with AFM tip. Okay. So these are some applications of AFM: surface imaging, surface stress, force measurement, micro mechanics. Okay, to write molecules. Okay, just like the IBM I said, no, nano manipulators. Okay, so to write molecules, dip pen lithography. Okay, then biological studies, obviously. Okay, so here this is a very important instrument which is comparatively very cheaper than a conventional electron microscope, and maintenance is also very less, size is also very less. AFM microscope. Okay, okay, so when we come to computational challenges, okay, so this is a very important thing. This is actually I have given just a quick introduction to MEMS. I'm sorry if there are some slides are repeated. Okay, with Manjunath sir. Okay, here when we come to computational challenges, here MEMS modeling and simulation tools invariably use some tools like ANSYS tools. Okay, finite element method is inbuilt in all MEMS modeling and simulation tools. Okay, so not only this, because of this number of MEMS structures which are normally required for achieving a particular job, that also poses some challenges. Okay, because many n number of MEMS can be used simultaneously, because whether you make one mem structure or 100 mem structure, the cost hardly varies. Okay, so this is what the specialty of batch fabrication. Okay, so even for a few rupees, okay, say for 10 rupees, okay, or for 10 cents, okay, one can have so many for say $2 to $3, one can have some 100 MEMS structures. Okay, so you can just simply bring them and put them in parallel. Okay, and if one fails also, you will get the output always. Okay, they work in array, and that also helps. Okay, and suppose right now in our mobiles there are say 10 to 10 few number of say 7 8 mem structures. Okay, around 10 microstructures. Within after 5 to 10 years we will be having some 100 mem structures in our mobiles, so that each one of us who are carrying mobiles will be a weather stations. Okay, all the weather around us can be captured centrally, and the exact weather of a place can be uh, informed to others. Okay, that information can be processed. Okay, so here the thing is, MEMS, when we say, as they are very small and they are very cheap, many such MEMS can be uh, used to make a network of MEMS or array of MEMS, and they can be distributed in an area, and the outputs or the results of their readings, okay, can be centrally accessed. And if they are there, the controlling of large number of distributed MEMS sensors and actuators. Okay, so is the requirement. Okay, so distributed intelligence, okay, raising the general intelligence and the capability of machines and matter. Okay, so MEMS devices as computational elements. MEMS multiple energy domain simulations. Okay, so analysis and design. Okay, so in for all these things, obviously we need or altogether different computational challenges arise when we try to use MEMS in array or n number of MEMS for our applications. Okay, so first of all, in the very modeling and simulation of these structures, okay, modeling and simulation of these structures is usually done using ANSYS multiphysics, okay, or Coventerware, COMSOL multiphysics, IntelliSuite, MEMSCAP, Sugar, and so many other things are there. But the first four are very important and widely used by people. Okay, so here by default there will be a CAD tool inbuilt. Okay, so that you can visualize the three-dimensional structure of the MEMS, draw that just like how you draw the MEMS figure. No, I draw a cantilever. Obviously, I'll take some two parallel lines, make a isometric view, and okay, and say no. So like that, you have to make some. You have to use some CAD tool for drawing the MEMS structures. Okay, at the back end of all these things, some CAD tool is used, and a user-friendly facility is given so that you can draw some conventional structures. But once you do that, then you have to go for, at the back end. We have to use ANSYS, okay, or any finite element method. Okay, so there the structure is divided into so many nodes, thousands of nodes, and for each one of these nodes, for each one of these nodes, it is basically a divide and conquer rule. Okay? So each one of these nodes, a equation or a differential equation is solved. Thousands of equations are solved, or thousands of differential equations are solved, and their sum total is given to you directly. Okay, so this output obviously is near to practical values, unlike your analytical equations. Okay, compared to analytical equations, the output of these output of the finite element analysis tool is much more near to the practical value. Okay, that's why people use these simulation softwares. And most important thing is in Coventerware. Okay, in Coventerware there is a facility. Okay, I'll just give an example of a counter where here, say substrate, okay, a silicon substrate is taken of say 500 microns. Of course, here only 10 is taken. Okay, so then on that you stack the material. Okay, silicon nitride. Okay, then use it as a sacrificial layer, and for that sacrificial layer, you use some material BPSG. Okay, silicon nitride. The software itself gives you the 3D structure. So advantage of this this Coventrware software is one can think of one will be uh, realized. That means whether it is a particular structure which is there in my mind, whether it is fabricatable or not, realizable or not, that information you will get in advance. Otherwise, what happens if you are using some ANSYS multiphysics? Okay, then you create some structures which may not be possible for you to fabricate. Okay, so that's why that way Coventrware is much better. Of course, when you go to Coventrware and make a structure, okay, then then analysis part is a little bit poor here. Okay, you have to go for other software. Okay, so but whether the the MEM structure which you are thinking, whether it is realizable or not, that information you will get very clearly using Coventrware software. Okay, I'll just give a flare of what can be done, because in India, no, there are not many fab labs. Most of the things you can understand using simulations. Okay, but only at the time, only after fabrication only your work will be awarded. Okay, like suppose if you are doing research, then everybody asks for fabrication. Okay, so not only just simulations. Okay, and now where these soft computing techniques can be used, that we are discussing. Okay, so selection of the best. What is optimization? Selection of the best. Okay, from some set of available alternatives. Okay, suppose this is one example wherein Pulling voltage. I think most of you know about Pulling voltage. Pulling voltage is the voltage which is required to make a electrical contact in case of electrostatic actuation. Okay, so here there is a cantilever. Of course, it has bent now. Think that this is horizontal like this. Now you between this and this base plate, you are applying some voltage. Okay, so when you start applying voltage, then obviously it comes down. Okay, but when it deflects by 1/3 of the gap, suppose the gap between these two is 3 microns. When it moves by 1 micron, think that it is here. Okay, it has bent by only 1 micron. Okay, then if you apply a little bit extra voltage, then suddenly it comes and makes contact with this bottom plate. Okay, so that means this is called Pulling voltage. Okay, Pulling voltage is the voltage which is required to make a cantilever, okay, or a micro bridge to make contact with the bottom plate, so that it works as a switch. Okay, on off switch. Okay, so here voltage required, say V Pulling voltage is given by this equation, 8 kd cube upon 27 epsilon A. Or the same thing can be written in same equation, 2d upon 3. So d here or here, it is same thing. That is the gap between the two plates. Okay, two parallel plates. Okay, and k is also same thing. Okay, so but it is 1.5 C naught. Okay, so C naught is the capacitance between these two plates. Okay, before applying any voltage, C naught. And this epsilon is constant. Epsilon naught, epsilon r you have to take. Okay, epsilon naught is fixed once again, and epsilon r is It depends upon the dielectric material, whether it is A or some other dielectric material that you have to, it's epsilon R you have to take. And this is the common area between the two plates. Suppose width of the cantilever and length of the cantilever is common to the bottom plate. Okay, so A is width of the cantilever and length of the cantilever in this case. Okay, if it is 100 micron long, 20 micron wide, then 100 into 20. Okay, 2000. Okay, is the area here. 2000 square microns is the area here. Okay, kd cube divided by 12. Sorry, kd cube 8 kd cube divided 27 epsilon A. So with this equation, if you can find out VPI, okay, it is almost near. But when you carry out the same thing in a ANSYS, in a Coventerware software here, this is Coventerware, okay, then whatever the value you get, that will be more near to practical value. Okay, so that way you have to go for such, because it is a software wherein finite element analysis is built in, so its value will be near to practical value. So, and you can go for visualization. No, so many advantages are there. Okay, by simulation. Okay, their range you can find out, their limitations you can find out. Okay, so material property also you can change at your wish. Okay, before actual fabrication, so almost you can understand 99.9% of it. Only its feasibility you will not understand, but only after fabrication you can understand. Okay, so here in this, what we are doing is optimization. Okay, so suppose for a length of 100 microns or for a width of say 20 micron, what is the best thickness we can use, or we have to design what thickness I have to consider in order to achieve some Pulling voltage, because Pulling voltage is a voltage which is comparatively higher. Okay, higher than conventional voltages which are used in electronics. Okay, the one which I showed in my previous slide, that is 60 micron, 15 micron, 1 micron thick or so, whatever, used as a switch. Okay, their Pulling voltage we mentioned is around 30 volts. Okay. So when you are building electronic circuitry along with conventional electronic circuitry and mechanical structures in the same chip, and there you want to apply 30 volts, and for electronics you usually apply 5 volts or less than 5, 3.3 volts. Okay, then you will have to design separate power supply for that 30 volts DC. Okay, so that can be avoided if you can optimize this cantilever also, so that you can apply the same voltage as that is required for the electronic circuitry. Okay, so under such conditions you can just keep on optimizing it. Okay, either length or increase the length, or okay, keep length. One of you can take, say, width, you can keep it same but decrease the thickness. Okay, like this you can achieve some design parameters in terms of length, geometry, length, width, thickness, and find out a required Pulling voltage. For that, what should be the length, what should be the better width, what should be the better thickness. So that can be explored by, say, genetic algorithms. Okay, before actually going for that, we can do that. Okay, we know the concept of genetics. Okay, so in genetics also, say, reproduction, competition, selection, survival. So this is a process. So same thing is same concept is written in the form of algorithm. Okay, genetic algorithm it is called. Okay, so to find the optimized Pulling voltage. Okay, so this is we have given here some values. Okay, length we have taken fixed. Okay, width we have given some range, say 20 to 50 micrometers. Thickness also we have given some range, 0.5 to 1 micrometer. Okay, then optimize Pulling voltage. Okay, So now we are bringing it down to 3 or 4 or 5. Okay, so here we have used genetic algorithm. Okay, so similarly for a disk resonator also we have, this is once again a disk resonator. Okay, uh, we have used the genetic algorithms. Okay, so obviously whenever we are doing some optimization using genetic algorithm, we need a crisp equation. Okay, so if that crisp equation is not there, then you can always go for ANN, okay, artificial neural network. Okay, so then learning, classification, prediction, function, approximation, control, clustering, optimization. Okay, so all these things can be, all these operations can be obtained or can be done using artificial neural network. Okay, so here I'm just giving some very simple codes. Okay, to train a ANN structure. Okay, it's just few line program. Okay, so few line program. This will tell you just 7-8 line program. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 lines. Okay, so 8-line program. This gives you, of course, you need a ANN toolbox in MATLAB. This is a MATLAB code. Okay, if you simply type this, then it gives you a binary to decimal conversion thing. That is, any binary number can be converted into decimal number. Okay, so just imagine. Okay, why I'm giving this is learning ANN is not a difficult thing. Okay, similarly, this is decimal to binary conversion. Okay, so this gives you out how we can use ANN for, see here, decimal to see 1, 2, 3, 4. These are decimal numbers 0 to 9, and they are corresponding outputs here. Okay, if you put them, and then obviously you can train the network. Once you train the network with this input output parameters, then for any arbitrary set of input outputs, you can predict the output. Okay, so that is the whole idea behind going for ANN in this particular case. Okay, because not always you will have a analytical equation for a MEMS structure. Under such conditions, what one has to do is one has to create a model using any one of these modeling tools. Okay, and give some inputs and observe the output. Okay, like this you take some 200, 300 readings. Okay, then change the parameters for the, see if analytical equation is there, crisp equation is there in terms of geometry and metal properties and output. Okay, deflection, say. Okay, then you can always use the equation, analytical equation. But if it is not there, if you think of making my arm, hand itself as a cantilever, okay, then you can make the hand in the say using some ANSYS. Okay, give it approximate density and give some inputs and output. Okay, so then train the model with the 200 to 400 input output relations. Then use it for anything, like any input, any output. Okay, so this combination, okay, this combination I have used here. Okay, I'll just show you here. See, it is a mixture of genetic algorithm and artificial neural network. Genetic algorithm requires, okay, a crisp equation, but I have used using crisp equation. One can have the output, no, so that is required. But using ANN, that intermediate results I am giving. See here, the initially general initial population, generate initial population. Then, so here simulated ANSYS results. Okay, simulated ANSYS results are given here. Then from that we select. Okay, selection. Okay, and crossover, mutation, all these operations takes place, and for whatever the output set of output is required, then that set of inputs are given to ANN simulation software. Okay, so then it gives you possible new population, and that I can use and come back here. Okay, so basically we are marrying genetic algorithm and ANN here. Okay, so all this whatever I am telling, no, these things are used as soft computing tools for getting a optimized dimension for ultimately fabricating a MEMS structure for a specific application. Otherwise, see, by try and error, you cannot do it. Okay, so you have to use such techniques. Okay, techniques. See here, I have used a structure here. It is actually fabricated in fabricated one. Okay, so see here, it's a combination of long arm and short arm. It is an electrothermal actuator. Hello. Hello. Am I audible? Sir? Any of the participants? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. You are audible.
Okay. Thank you. So here, a electrothermal actuator is fabricated. Okay, so these are two base pads. So whenever you connect them, when you apply between these two some voltage, the current passes through this and comes back here. So just because the cross section of these two are different, okay, as they are in microns, okay, so I'll show you the dimensions later. Okay, so here as they are in microns, when current passes through this, it heats up these two arms. But just because cross section of this is more compared to cross section of this part, this heats up quickly and it pushes this. So same thing you can, then a stress contours are here. Okay, so a notch at the base of the thicker arm decreases the maximum stress by about 13%. Okay, and of course a notch increases the deflection, decreases the stress. Okay, two advantages are there, but that's why this notch has been made. This is called long arm, this is short arm. Okay, its long arms dimensions are around 1000 microns, 950 plus 50. Okay, 1000 micron. This is around 750 microns, 700 microns. Okay, so its dimension is 50 by 50, whereas it is 20 by 20 cross section. Okay, so if this is the case, then this is simulated in using ANSYS or any. Of course, here it has been done using ANSYS. One can use either Coventerware or COMSOL also. Okay, so then you can see how the stress is distributed and how the deflection takes place. Okay, same thing is shown here. Okay, displacement contours and temperature distribution contours have been shown. Okay, so then obviously here just because the combination of these two, for the combination of these two, we cannot have a analytical expression. Okay, so the solution is what? Solution is make this model. Okay, take some set of readings. Okay, and use this set of reading to train the neural network. Okay, and use the genetic algorithm to find the optimized dimension for a particular set of input outputs, which are ultimately considered for fabrication. Okay, so this has been done. That is nothing but optimization using genetic algorithm and ANN. Because here normally people carry out optimization without using ANN. Okay, so that also gives, because crisp analytical equations are there. But for this application, there is no crisp analytical equation is there. That's why if you go for this, then it gives you the desired or required dimensions for achieving the output. So here, these are optimized dimensions. See, length 1000 micron, 750 micron, voltage, reflection. Okay, if it is this 11.5. Okay, so these, of course, when we carry out optimization, not only one value, okay, not only one value, we can consider a few best values possible. Okay, so in order to achieve a deflection of around 11.5 micron, okay, what should be the length of the long arm, what it should be the length of short arm, what voltage you have to apply. So that has been optimized here. Long arm, short arm, okay, in order to deflect it by around 11 point, deflect the tip of this structure. Okay, so why this structure may be used, why this structure can be is considered, if you ask. Okay, so this can be used as a arm, a leg for a millipede, centipede you might have heard. Okay, in Kannada we call it a jerry. Okay, so it is a structure which is a some small creature, okay, which is having hundreds of legs, okay, crawls. Okay, so in order to make it move, okay, you need, if it is a robotic millipede, centipede, okay, so then you can switch these legs one after the other, like that. Okay, okay, so for such applications you can go for see, then obviously this one can also think of these things. But last but not the last, at the end, I would like to share this. Okay, the future of MEMS and IoT. Just because these are of small size and they are very sensitive, or one can design a MEMS device for sensing anything. Okay, for sensing anything. Okay, we already know that the sensors, man-made sensors, are very powerful. Okay, normally we call indriyas. Okay, all our panchendriyas. Okay, panchendriyas sense some environment for us, environmental parameters for us, and we interact. We are alive because we have sensors. We have panchendriyas. Okay, we interact and we protect ourselves, or we understand things, or whatever. Okay, but compared to the natural sensors built in human body, the man-made sensors, they are more powerful. Okay, they make us to see the lights which we can't see with our naked eyes. Okay, they make us to feel the pressures which we cannot sense with our skin. Okay, they make us to, like that, which we can't hear, which we can't sense, which we can't see. Okay, all such natural phenomena are sensed by our man-made sensors. Okay, and MEMS is a miniaturized sensor. Okay, so for sensing many parameters, MEMS are required. Okay, so even one can think of sensing one's brain waves, or one can tell what I am thinking by putting some sensors over the head, like that. Okay, the ultimate thing in sensor is what? Sense anything. Okay, sense anything, human waves, human ideas also. Okay, that is the ultimate. Just like ultimate in communication, we have achieved almost. Okay, okay, so wherever, even I'm trekking in Himalayas, I can just talk to my friends if I have a satellite phone. Okay, so that is ultimate in communication we have reached. Ultimate in interfacing is what? Interface anything to anything. And here comes the sensor, ultimate sensor. And ultimate sensors are possible only using MEMS sensors. Okay, so, and MEMS, if they are clubbed with IoT technology, that is the sensed information, if it is connected to the network, then obviously we can achieve many more things. Okay, that is IoT, sustainability, energy, health, and smart cities. Okay, AAL, Okay, healthcare systems. AL is one which in for senior citizens, all health parameters, okay, can be captured and they are connected like that. So here the future goes like that. Okay, that is you can sense anything, and it is possible only with MEMS. MEMS sensors and actuators will help in this. So these are some conclusions. Okay, MEMS are logical extensions of silicon fab techniques. Okay, the applications and growth of MEMS and NEMS are endless and very exciting. Novel sensors, data storage, power generation, okay, and many more things. Okay, the MEMS technology will continue to grow similar to integrated technology. Okay, this is also one more takeaway from this talk. Okay, so MEMS will integrate with micro and nano electronics to provide today's complicated, okay, micro electromechanical systems on a single chip. Okay. So these are all some possibilities and future. And I'd like to conclude my talk with this. In '99, there was former Sun CEO said, "Privacy is dead. Deal with it." Now in 2021, okay, the privacy is dead. Enjoy it. Okay, don't break the law, and you have nothing to fear. It is all because of MEMS. Okay, MEMS sensors which are kept everywhere. Okay, or which can be kept everywhere. No gunshot would go unlocated. Okay, no cry for help will go unheard. No bad guy will be uncaught. Will go uncaught. My house is protected with sensors and cameras made so cheap I can afford a lot of them. On every wall you can put a sensor camera, MEMS based camera are coming. Okay, so the technology is still just 30 years 40 years old. Okay, so there is more day left to dawn, but the sun is but a morning star. Okay, this is a quote by Henry David Thoreau, who wrote Warden. He lived in the nearby Warden Lake, and he wrote the novel Warden. Okay, so he said this. Okay, so whatever the development that is taking place in MEMS and NEMS technology, it is just in the nascent stage. Okay, and it is ultimately going to acquire all spheres of life. Thank you. Hello.
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 Participants can
Ah.
ask doubts if any. Participants, you can ask doubts if you have. Any
Ma'am, good
queries?
afternoon, ma'am. Shall I ask?
Yes, sure,
Sure.
sir.
Sir, my doubt is one new idea I have got about genetic algorithm and ANN. So,
Yes.
are you using any other software, or even in multiphysics that console software we
Hello.
can? Yeah. Hello, sir. Hello.
See, sir. Hello.
Sir,
Ah.
my doubt is that you have talked about
Yeah.
genetic algorithm as well as ANN.
Hmm.
So whether we can
Okay.
use these two techniques in console or any other software we required for this one, sir, when
Sir,
we are going
here
to
there is.
optimize. Huh.
Okay, sir. See here, using the software and the modeling and simulation software of MEMS, both are two different things. Okay, so suppose a cantilever is subjected to some force and output in the form of deflection or change in resonance frequency is observed. Okay, so those things, those data, we have to take into a computer program wherein either genetic algorithm or ANN is used. So in the MEMS modeling and simulation software itself, we cannot use these things. Okay, on the
Okay.
results obtained from those things. Suppose you are applying some, putting some input, okay, on a cantilever structure. Okay, it bends by 1 micron. Okay, so if the cantilever is made up of altogether different combination of different materials, wherein you can't write a exact crisp equation for the cantilever. Okay, so then you cannot formulate the genetic algorithm. Okay, sir, what I'm telling you got it, no?
Yeah, yes, sir. And sir,
Right.
one more question, sir. Is there any
Yeah.
open source software is available for MEMS-based device, sir? Any open source software?
I have not explored, but in your college, you can use ANSYS. It is better.
Okay, sir.
ANSYS is usually available in the colleges, almost all colleges. Mechanical department, they will have some.
NC
Uh,
software, sir.
okay, ANSYS software, and
Okay.
license will be there. Then you can use. Even license are available.
And sir, one more question. Actually, you have talked about in one slide about resonant frequency. It is in
Yeah.
discrete in nature like that. You have shown one red color graph was there,
Hmm.
sir, and by showing that.
Yeah.
So actually, my doubt
Yeah.
is with by finding resonant frequency, how we can conclude it, sir? Means what we have to conclude using resonant frequencies, because whenever we are studying those resonant frequency, we are it is getting deflected and we are getting different resonant frequencies. So can you please tell me, sir, how to conclude that part?
See, sir, there are two aspects. Okay, whenever a cantilever is there, you can whatever the input you give. Suppose if you put a mass, okay, so it bends. That is called static bending. Okay, static input, static output. You can say, okay, you can get. It has bent by 1 micron means it is weight must be 1 milligram or 1 nanogram, whatever. Okay, depending upon the size. Then, but this is a static readout, sir. But when you consider resonance frequency, the you stimulate the cantilever before applying the or before putting the weight. You observe the resonance frequency, and after putting the weight, once again you stimulate the cantilever and observe the resonance frequency. The change in resonance frequencies will reveal you the weight of the deposited mass. Am I clear, sir?
Yeah, yes, sir,
Am I
yes, sir,
making the
yes.
point clear?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
You are not you should not get confused with those two terms. Okay.
Yeah, yes, yes, sir.
You put
And
some weight, it bends. Static bending is proportional to your input. Okay. You stimulate the cantilever before putting the weight and observe the resonance frequency. Then put the weight. Then once again observe the resonance frequency. That change in resonance frequency is once again proportional to the input weight. From that you can giving the with the equation you can find out.
okay, sir. And sir, one last doubt, sir. Actually, in pull-in voltage, one term was there, sir, 8K DQ. So,
Yeah.
sir, I'm sorry, sir, I have not heard properly. What is that K, sir? K value?
K is stiffness.
Acha, stiffness. Okay, sir. Thank you
Stiffness.
so much, sir.
Stiffness
Thank
of the
you, sir.
cantilever. Okay. And it depends upon the material property of the Young's modulus. Okay. I think it is very much available in the books. Okay. The equation for a rectangular shaped.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Any other questions, please?